Okay, I'm in Japan at Yote.
山
Wait, what's the name of the mountain again?
羊蹄山
Yotesan.
is a Fuji.
Is-
Cut.
Okay, so I'm at this mountain and I'm in Japan, and I decided that I am going to give you 5 lessons that I learned from self-publishing my first manga. Here we go. Okay, so as you know, Resenter had a one-shot that was published in Viz, but before it was published in Viz, I actually self-published Resenter on my own. I created a first chapter, and I have some thoughts about how that process went, so I want to share those 5 thoughts with you today. So 5 lessons that I learned from self-publishing my first manga. Lesson number 1, nail down your process. Something that I remember from working on Resenter was that I kind of regret, something that is definitely a lesson now that I didn't think so much of at the time, but definitely nail down your process. Make sure that you have your process down. Make sure you understand like how you are going to fully create your first manga, whether or not you're going to do digital or analog or hybrid and do both. I did hybrid, but even then I feel like I still didn't have my process as tightly, as narrowed down as I should have had it. One of the reasons why it's really important to get your process down though is because it makes everything so much easier. It makes things easier when you decide how you're going to, if you decide to go black and white in monochrome, how you're going to do that, how you're going to tone your stuff, or if you decide to do color, how you're going to do the colors, if it's going to be traditional or digital. And it also helps with printing, right? You need to know about that stuff ahead of time so that you know what things are going to cost when it's time to get stuff printed. And regardless if you decide to get it crowdfunded and kickstarted, or if you decide to go out of pocket and fund the printing costs yourself, it definitely makes sense to have your process down and make sure that you know exactly, at least 85%, if not 90, if not 100%, at least 85%. Know what your process is going to look like before you start. It's super important. Definitely lesson number 1. That is definitely something that if I were doing this process over again, I would definitely make sure I have nailed down to a T and force myself not to deviate from it. All right, lesson 2 of lessons that I've learned from self-publishing my first manga is that things will always take longer than you think. When I first started this, I really didn't have that much experience making any type of manga or comic seriously. And so I completely underestimated how long things actually took. And it was so bad to the point that I had to split up my first chapter in 2 parts because I was impatient and I wanted to get it done. In hindsight, I probably would do a lot more smaller manga, a few more one-shots, just a few pages, and try to build up my stamina for creating manga and comics, because creating 2 parts of a single chapter is not ideal. That's not really what you want to do. So just know that things will take much longer than you anticipate. And it's not just creating manga, but also printing, everything. Writing, especially if it's your first time, it will always take longer than you think, so plan for that in advance. Okay, so now lesson 3 of the lessons that I learned from self-publishing my first manga is make sure that you get beta readers while you're in the name or storyboarding stage. Something that I realized when I was making Resenter in hindsight is that there were certain things that I wanted to convey a little better, that I wanted to tighten up, that I think might have been better had I had beta readers to read it while it was in the storyboarding or name stage. It's a lot easier to make any changes in that stage because you haven't done any of the final pages yet, you haven't rendered anything, you haven't inked or penciled any pages, you've only just done the name. It's something that I really wish that I would have done much sooner. I did get some beta readers after the pages were done, and it was okay. I got really good advice, but it was advice that I got after I did all the work of finalizing the pages, which is a massive mistake. So make sure that you get beta readers for your name before you do any final artwork, any toning, any inking. Okay, we are back in the car, getting ready to go back home. And now it is time for me to share lesson 4 of the lessons that I learned while self-publishing my first manga. Lesson 4 is something that I actually didn't predict beforehand, and it only became apparent to me that this is something that I need to be aware of and something that I needed to do after the fact. Lesson 4 is learn how to talk about your manga very quickly, in as few words as possible. Something that, for some reason, something that I didn't anticipate is that at conventions, of course, like if you're trying to self-publish your own manga and you're trying to sell it and make money for your work, of course, you need to be able to explain to people very quickly at conventions, as an example, what your story is about. And like, you can't just give them the full rundown about like what your arc is and like your character's backstory. Nobody cares about that stuff. There's no time for that. You have to try to make this sale. So you have to try to talk about your manga, the most interesting parts of your manga, in the quickest way possible. Quickest but most accurate way possible. Like if your stuff is like not action oriented, but you want to try to make a sale and you lie to people and say that it's action oriented, that's not gonna work. That's not gonna work at all. Like it has to be as accurate as possible, using as few words as possible. But like it's got to be juicy enough to like entice like potential readers quickly, so that you can make the sale, you can entice people, and like the customer walks away happy and you walk away having sold your manga. That is actually a skill that's a lot harder than I anticipated, than I thought it was. And I actually came up with my kind of like quick spiel for a Zenter as I was at a convention, like as I started selling Zenter at conventions. And that's the same spiel that I've been using since. So if you've seen me at a convention and you heard me talking about like Resenter and describing to people like what Resenter is about, yeah, that happened during a con. So in order to be a little bit more prepared than I was, that's something that I want to share, is to make sure that you have like your short spiel for what your manga is going to be about. Who can say where the road goes? Where the road goes? Hey, where the Okie dokie. So the last lesson that I learned from self-publishing my first manga is to take note of your failures. It is very similar to what I'm doing in this video right now, which is reflecting on all the failures, or not so much failures in this video, but lessons that I learned, things that I would improve upon, things that if I knew at the time when I was self-publishing my manga that I would have done at that time. So anyway, take note of your failures, take note of any mistakes that you make, and make sure that you improve on those mistakes for the next go round. And I think that's it. Try not to fall in the snow, but that was my 5 lessons that I learned from self-publishing my first manga. What did you think? I hope they were helpful. Please give this video a like, subscribe. Look at this big ass, fantastic ass mountain that we are located at in Japan. I shot this video just for y'all. Please like the video, please subscribe. Tell me what you thought. Are you planning on publishing your first manga, self-publishing your own first manga this year? I hope you are. And if you are, please check out the videos that are on the channel. I have some advice on how you can get that started. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. And until next time, thank you so much. Subscribe. Bye.